Hello and welcome back. Before we get to part 2, Real Talk, please allow us to fulfill our capitalistic duty and plug our Patreon, the Contrarian Supplements.
That's right. For a small fee, you too can help the Contrarians rage on.
We have tiers ranging from just $1 to $10. It all depends on how much content you can handle.
Starting at $1, it's the Travoltis tier, which gets you access to new bonus episodes focusing on a new movie every month, as well as access to the patron chat. Join other patrons in making fun of our opinions.
Moving up to $3 is the Winonis tier, which unlocks access to our pre-recording notes, our video reviews, and our spin-off show, Contrarians After Hours.
That's a more laid-back space where we talk about other things we've been watching, reading, playing, thinking about. Sometimes it's related to the movies being covered in the main feed, but it usually isn't.
If you want to be part of those patrons who help us shape the show by telling us which movies to tackle, that's when you sign up for the $5 tier, the Embries, and the $10, the Gads.
Finally, all supplement subscribers, regardless of the tier, get access to our archive of special patron projects. Head over to patreon.com/contrarianprime now to join.
Be sure to listen through the end of the episode to find out what's coming up to the Contrarian Supplements this month. Now, it's time for some Real Talk.
Look, you gotta get out of there right away. You're committing suicide, you know that?
Listen, can't we just be together over the phone? I mean, just for a little while. Just until I find out. I mean, we can be together on the phone for a while, can't we? Oh, please. Listen, please. No.
Rose, get out of there! Look, just get up and drop the phone and walk out the door. Run out of there as fast as you can. You're not giving us enough time. You're not giving either of us.
Hard. No, don't. Listen, you can't. Hard.
Julio, to answer your question at the closing there, I personally have never received a rabies shot, but my mom did when she was a child, and I've heard that story approximately 100 times over the course of my life, and she will bring it up any chance she gets, and understandably so, because it's a series of shots, but also the needle is incredibly long, and the way she told it was in through her belly button that she had.
Oh, no. I'm sorry I asked.
Now you're cringing.
Yes. It's worse than the IV getting ripped out.
She got bit by like a stray dog, I believe it was. It was a stray animal of some sort, and went in, and she tells it and sets it up like it's, what you would see in a kid's movie with the distorted lens and the evil looking doctor and shit, and it comes over and time for your shot. But yeah, it doesn't sound fun.
Has your mom seen Rabid? Would it bring bad memories?
I would very much doubt that my mom has seen any David Cronenberg film. But it would not surprise me because my mom was big into disco. And in 1976, Marilyn Chambers had a disco single called Benihana, which is the song that plays over the scene where Hart is in like the shop where like his motorcycle is and stuff. And gets the call from Rose. So they're using her hit disco single in this movie. I imagine it was pretty cheap to use.
Synergy.
Yes. All right, Julio, let's get down to business here, what all the listeners are here for.
I did not bring up quotes from Behind the Green Door or any of her previous work.
We need to have this conversation to kick off this journey. What is your experience with adult film, with pornography? Is it, I mean this genuinely, like we're both children, of the 80s and 90s. So I guess my first question is, was it popular in Peru? Were there like porn shops that you remember as a kid driving past me and like, what's that? And your parents are like, nothing?
No, but I think in that sense, that was a sheltered aspect of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I think that my parents kept us protected from the seedy areas of Lima. Probably, I did not experience 35 millimeter porn It was just VHS. There is something, but I guess this applies to most things, right? But specifically with porn, and I know you made jokes about this every now and then about how the idea that today porn is so accessible because of the internet,
Mhm.
but before the internet, I guess there was always ways of getting it, and once you knew how, then maybe it was easy. But overall, I think that the average teenager has a much easier time finding porn today than they did when we were younger.
Oh, yeah.
Now, is the average teenager interested in porn these days? I don't know.
That does make it interesting, right? The fact that it's right there, like there's not the thrill of the chase, and that kind of would exist. So, I mean, mine's really cliche. My dad, had Playboy magazines from when he was in college that I found and was like, oh, naked girls. But I remember like the first time I ever would have seen like porno of any sort, my cousin or something, it would have been my cousin had like a VHS and put it on. And of course, I have no idea what I'm looking at. I'm like, what's happening here? And then, of course, the internet came along. I don't know if I've ever told this story. The big one, as far as like from my adolescence, pornography was in Waterville, Ohio, which, yeah, I don't want to make it sound like I grew up in a big city where there was porn theaters and stuff, because I definitely didn't. I grew up in a town called Waterville, Ohio, for Christ's sakes. Me and my buddies, but in the summer of like 01 maybe, or 14, somewhere in that age range. And then we were just walking down the street, and there was a tape that was like halfway in a drainage ditch, like, a runoff at the end of the street where it drains into the sewer. This tape was just like halfway in there.
That's how Pennywise gets you.
Yeah, I now know that. But we just it was like three of us that were walking over to one of our other friends' house, and we just picked it up, and it was like out of a fucking movie. It said XXX on it. That's like all it said. And we were like, there's no way.
That's a setup.
So we took it to, it's either my friend Richie or my friend Ben's house. I just remember the thing is, it was like halfway through the tape, and we put it in the VCR, and it was in one of those extreme close-ups where just going in naked, like you don't know what the hell's going on, and then the camera started zooming out, and we were all like, oh my God.
So was it the first Triple X, the Vin Diesel one, or was it the sequel with Ice Cube?
Wonderfully played, Julio. Wonderfully played. But what I will tell you, and I've never been able to find this anywhere on the internet ever again, the porn on it was, the premise was, it was the painting of the Mona Lisa, and the female in it looked a lot like the Mona Lisa. And the painter, after painting it, she rewarded him by having sex with him. And then another woman, for some reason, was nearby and just wandered in and joined in with them. And so
she carrying a pizza. Was the painter like dressed like Da Vinci, or was it just?
Yeah, he had like a fucking like robe on, and then of course it just comes off, and he's like this jacked fucking Hispanic dude with a huge dong. But
I think I've told this story. I don't know why. I think it was in the Pre-Persuasion episode. Is there? Yeah, because there's a scene where they're watching porn, right? So I don't know if it made it to the main feed. Maybe it was just ended up in Patreon, kind of room floor stuff. But we found we didn't find, like, a friend of ours had a tape, and he brought it over, and then I made a copy, and I think I made a copy for each of us because I had like the setup to copy tapes. So I think that we each had like a tape, and then we bought a couple times. We went to like a newsstand to buy, like, one time we bought like a High Society, another time we bought, it wasn't Hustler, it was something else, but it was and we were teenagers, like young teens. We were like 12 or 13. So, but the adult selling it to us knew exactly what was going on, and he just like put it in a brown paper bag and gave it to us. So that kind of stuff. I mean, nothing like, we were not like walking down like sticky floors or.
Yeah. No, I've never been to a porn theater, and I don't know if I was given the opportunity to, like, time travel if I would want to, because it just sounds, as much as the novelty of porn on 35 millimeter would pop me, just the idea of it's too much. I went to one sex, slash porn shop in high school when I turned 18. Me and my friends went there, and it was just, I was like, I am not into so much of what's happening here. So, but anyway, that's
Okay, but you, at least, I think that you can recognize porn stars in a way that I don't. Like I know
I'm not going to brag about that.
No, but it's definitely something. Like I know the infamous Ron Jeremy, and
he's going to come up. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's a blonde actress that was like super popular.
Jenna Jameson, is that who you're thinking of?
I think so. Yeah, the name definitely sounds familiar.
When I first moved to Hollywood, it was out of control. I would have packs of them just following me because, I was dating. I was running around with Paris Hilton. I was acting like a heathen.
She was like the starlet of the 90s, the late 90s. And I once heard Lisa Ann is a very popular porn star legend in her field, some would say. And she once referred to Jenna Jameson as like the MTV of porn. And I was like, that's a really interesting way of putting it, because she made it like seem really cool and like cutting edge. And we'll be talking more about this as we go through it, and the people that we focus on and their personal experiences. Most of them would tell you it's not worth doing and it's a bad idea. But yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, I guess so that answers my next question. You don't have like a favorite porn star, Julio?
No, I don't. I guess that just speaks to the. I wonder how much how much porn do you have to watch in order to develop like a taste for like a very specific thing, where you just go like, this is my guy, this is my girl, this is my porn director. I follow this filmography.
The director, I never thought of that. Like who's like they have the shelf of the director. That it's not by the star. I've never once considered the director of a porno, but Burt
like,
Reynolds, of course.
Like, I mean, I'm not trying to like pass myself off as like a prude. I've watched plenty of porn, but never in a way that, specifically to this project. The idea that you could have a porn star as the protagonist of your movie and that be the draw, that's something that wouldn't be made for me, because even though, I've watched, let's say, I don't know, man, what is excessive? Like 1,000 hours of porn sounds like way too much, but maybe that's.
Oh, yeah. Well, don't try to monetize, to put a number on it. Then you sound psychotic. So we'll just say.
Well, I was trying to not sound like it's a little, but I know that,
You can just say your fair share. You've watched your fair share.
But what I mean is like I think that the average number of hours for porn, doesn't mean that like for you to get excited that what's this lady's name in
Marilyn Chambers.
That Marilyn Chambers is starring in a movie, you have to be a Marilyn Chambers fan, which means that you follow her work as a porn star. Like I've never been even close to that. Whenever I watch pornography, it was just like, all right, random people that I don't know. I can't tell you that I ever recognize somebody from like, oh, it's the girl from like that other movie.
It's Leland Orser.
And she's doing the Leland Orser thing.
So
like, are you at that level? Like, do you have like some performers where you're like, oh yeah, this is what she does. This is what he does.
She's long retired, but my favorite was a woman that went by the name of Olivia Lovely. But that was to, I guess, a little bit of the age gap difference in us, Julio. When I got to college, that was like during the like DVD boom of porn and like accessibility, and like the internet and streaming and stuff was just like starting. So I remember that was like, you're on your own for the first time in your life, and you make your buddies that like, oh, you got to see this, and so like in a
just
weird,
you and your modem.
Yeah, exactly. And the tape trading circuit, I guess. So, yeah, the exposure was a little bit different. And also, well, now it's so weird. And we're kind of going to talk about the, I guess, evolution, for lack of a better term, to where now, much like the actual film industry, the system can't breed actual porn stars anymore, because everyone with a phone can just put porn on the internet. And so it's It's an interesting place to start, and that's kind of why I did it this way, because of Marilyn Chambers' like mainstream success relatively that she achieved from pornography that led her to a couple of acting roles. Now, we're going to go over the high spots of Rabid here in real talk, but really for the deeper dive into like the trivia and the making of this, really going to rely on the post credits for that, because I kind of want to focus on Marilyn Chambers and her contributions for the real talk of this episode, Julio.
That works for me. I was wondering like how you were going to split whatever research you've done in between here and the video. So I'm glad that you have a plan.
Yes. So Julio and I, what's the Tim Robinson line? We watched a little bit of porn. But I nor Julio, I mean, I know what Behind the Green Door is, but I've never seen it, and I'm not familiar with the on-screen exploits of one Marilyn Chambers. I think there's a few women and men we'll be talking about during this journey that I might say differently about, but starting off here with a fresh palette. Now, Julio, before we get to any and everything about this film and Marilyn Chambers, what quotes did you pull for us?
All right. So I didn't know the history. I figured Marilyn Chambers, or rather, I figured that Rosie was the porn star in this movie just because she was the only one that got naked. So that was my assumption.
I forgot about that, but I kind of want to play that throughout this whole journey, is unless it's explicitly like the girlfriend experience, you already know, but otherwise I want to see if you can guess who it is.
Well, I mean, I can tell you, it would have been spoiled for me no matter what, because, or rather, it was by the quotes, because there are a couple of quotes that basically confirmed I mean, let me just read the quotes, then we'll go from there. So these are all rotten. Variety staff from Variety says, here is an extremely violent, sometimes nauseating picture about a young woman affected with rabies running around Montreal infecting others. And she's just not affected with rabies. She's
got a whole situation going on.
Yeah. It's a little more complicated than that. Walter Chaw from Film Freak Central says, a strong indicator of the auteur's obsessions, but lacks the sustained energy and invention of most of his other work. I think that's something you say after the fact.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's a fair... I guess it's inescapable. If you watch this movie today, how can you not bring up the evolution of David Cronenberg since he made this movie? It's really hard to judge it in isolation. Here we go. TV Guide, no critic credited, says, while Chambers does add some resonance to the film as a sexual icon, her acting ability is decidedly limited. So that's the one where I read that one, I'm like, okay, she has to be, they're calling her a sexual icon, so I'm guessing that she's the one.
Mm-hmm.
And she was, obviously. And then, Alex, this is my Letterboxd review from November 2nd, 2017. Apparently, I had seen this movie before, and it really makes me worry that I didn't remember a single thing about it. This is my review. It's Patient Zero looks like the 70s version of Britney Snow. So I even made the same comparison all those years back. Her boyfriend can't act to save his life or anyone else's. It's minor Cronenberg when the grossest thing you see is some skin removal and the major threat in the film comes from a woman's armpit. Monotonous and paper thin, but at least it was only 90 minutes. I give it 2 stars. I must have been in a really bad mood when I watched this movie. Isn't that scary that you can watch a movie, have an actual opinion, as... I didn't go in detail, but you read that and you're like, yeah, he did watch the movie. He calls out things that specifically happen in the movie. And yet, almost 10 years later, I had absolutely no recollection. It's not like at any point I was watching this movie and it came back to me. I'm like, oh, I know what's going to happen now. I didn't remember a single thing, Alex. I know that happens to you too. I mean, Mute, famously.
I don't deserve you, Leo. I love you so much, but you don't know me.
Yeah, man, we've watched so many movies. There's like an average amount of movie. I think it's like between like 5 and 10,000 or like the average amount of movies a human watches in their lifetime or some number like that, arbitrary. But no joke, there was like a near 10-year span for me and longer than that for you where we were watching like 3 to 4 movies a week, like just new movies, and not to mention what we watch at home. And dude, like I was thinking as you were saying that, you know how many movies in college I rented from Redbox that like I could watch them again and be like, yeah, I've never seen that before.
Before Letterboxd, we're like,
I would
guess.
get the letterbox at 7-Eleven by my house. I'd get a movie. I'd go home and get ripped and watch a movie and then go to bed and never think about it again. That's what I did, you know? So
2 weeks later, you read the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Brand new experience.
But yeah, I understand. That's also one of like the mind fucks of getting old that nothing prepares you for, is the idea of having done something already in your life that you just completely forget about. That's yeah. Your mind gets kind of weird when you get older in that way, but
yeah, I would like to think that I am not going to forget Rabid again because one, having to watch it with a slightly more analytical point of view, and also it's like a little more fun, I guess, you know, just doing it for the show, knowing what we know, and the porn star angle, and then just being forced to talk about it. Forced sounds bad, you know, knowing that I have to have a discussion here.
Yeah.
It sounds. I think the only thing I remember about this, especially because of the way it was written and anything, I think it's one of those movies that I watched while I was on the treadmill, like at the gym, and I watched on my phone, I think, and it was just kind of, you know, almost like background watching. And so when it was done, and then I just was not thinking about it anymore. But, you know, this is very different. So now I would like to think that I'm going to remember Rabid for the rest of my life. And if I ever catch some of Marilyn Chambers' other work, I'll be like, hey, it's the girl from Rabid.
Written and directed by David Cronenberg, released in Canada April 8th, 1977, the United States, July 6th of 1977, 4th of July release, baby. On a budget of approximating 550,000 Canadian, $7 million box office return. So pretty good for itself with those numbers, all things considered. But yes, from the bedroom to box office, we will be focusing on the pornographic actors that attempted to make the crossover. And honestly, not only starting in a different time period altogether of the adult film industry, but with possibly our most interesting entry, and that being Marilyn Chambers, who her film debut in 1972's Behind the Green Door crossed her over into something of an actual celebrity. One of the things I did see in the research was that she aspired to be an actress in her youth and would often skip school and high school to go audition for this, that, and the other. She had a sponsorship deal with Ivory Soap. She was like this Ivory Soap model. And apparently, just based on what I was reading, it was her image was pretty synonymous with that until they had to pull it for when Behind the Green Door came out because they didn't want to be associated with that.
Man. Missed out. Product placement opportunity.
So let's quickly talk about Behind the Green Door. As I mentioned in the first half, a mainstream pornographic release, widely considered one of the genre's classic pictures with one of the film and one of the films that ushered in the golden age of pornography. Featuring Marilyn Chambers, who became a mainstream celebrity, it was one of the first hardcore films widely released in the United States and feature-length directorial debut of the Mitchell brothers. Budget of $60,000. It made $50 million at the box office. It also is believed to have the first feature-length American heterosexual scene where interracial sex is performed with a black male and Marilyn Chambers, which it's kind of weird because I don't know the first time people had sex on camera, probably the day the camera was invented, but the idea of like there never being interracial sex on camera that was released up until 1972 seems a bit weird. It was screened at Cannes, Julio.
Love it.
After its release, organized crime figures used extortion in an attempt to obtain the rights to the film. There's a whole lot of interesting things that you will find about this movie. One of the big things is this kind of led, in a way, if I understood what I read correctly, to the whole purpose of porno theaters, because it was deemed that obscenity was not protected by the First Amendment. Therefore, this movie couldn't be shown in like theaters that fucking The Godfather would be shown at. So, they had to protect the children, God, all that type of stuff, I was reading that it was like prints of it were seized and destroyed. And when it opened in New York, it was successfully prosecuted. In addition to New York, it was banned in California, Colorado, and Georgia. So, as you can imagine, at that point in time, just builds the hype around it. And the poster is just Marilyn Chambers. And it says, "The All-American Girl, Marilyn Chambers in Behind the Green Door."
That's all you need. She wasn't even, because you said this was her first movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she wasn't even like a name, and that's what you're using to sell the movie.
Yes, and she was cast, and if you looked at the poster for it, you could see it a bit more. I think it was the Mitchell brothers, the people behind it. That's where I mentioned the Sybil Shepherd. They were like, "Hey, that girl looks like that girl from The Thing. We should get her for this." Because Last Picture Show was 71, right?
Yeah. So maybe by then it was what's the period piece that we did that was also Bogdanovich? We did on the Patreon.
Oh, fuck. Is it Daisy Miller? Was that it?
Yes, Daisy Miller.
Okay.
Hey, she looks like Daisy Miller.
Hey, there you fucking go, dude. There's a movie. I couldn't tell you a single thing that happened in that movie besides Sybil Shepherd was in it.
But you at least remember, like if you were to watch
Yes,
Daisy
I would.
Miller
I would be
tomorrow.
like, I have watched this before. Yeah,
Right.
I see what you mean. And also featured here in the Wikipedia page, which was just wonderful to me because it was going to be like my anecdote. John Cena. What was that movie? Ricky Stenicki. Is that last year, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Did you see it?
I did not. I heard it was really bad. I was like, oh, I need to see a bad Cena movie. It's gonna make me feel sorry.
They were doing like the group press junket with him and Zac Efron and someone else, maybe Andrew Santino, but they asked them what their favorite movie was. And, they're like Die Hard, saying shit like that. And then John Cena just said Behind the Green Door, like kind of just matter of factly. And no one sold it. You could tell like people thought it was some like avant-garde, like artistic picture. And then he starts looking around the room and he like points to like, a stagehand or something. He's like, all right, one person got that. He said, he's like, I was trying to see who would get that.
What is Behind the Green Door, John? Does anybody know? Raise your hand.
So she made that. She becomes somewhat of a celebrity. This transitions into her attempts at more mainstream things. And that brings us to Rabid.
So wait, so it wasn't like that she had a long career as a porn star.
Well, she would return back to porn. So she made, let's see here. She was in a Sean Cunningham movie in 71, which is really funny. The guy who created Friday the 13th. Sorry, Victor Miller, one of the people that created Friday the 13th. So she had like actual acting credits, but Behind the Green Door was her first pornographic role. And then she had I think a couple other porno movies that she was in, and then Rabid came along and she went back to porn after that, and she kind of dabbled throughout. So, but in the 70s, where was this here? Chambers dreamed of having a career in mainstream films and believed her celebrity as a star of Behind the Green Door and The Ivory Snow Girl would be a stepping stone to other endeavors. This is a quote. "The paradox was that as a result of Green Door, Hollywood blackballed me. Green Door became a very high-grossing film, but to a lot of people, it was still a dirty movie. For me to do anything else as an actress would be totally out of the question. I became known as a porno star, and that type of labeling really hurt me. It hurt my chances of doing anything else." Throughout the 70s, producers of Hollywood films considered casting her. Her biggest opportunity came in 1976 when it was announced by Variety she was going to star alongside Rip Torn in City Blues, a film about a young hooker defended by a seedy lawyer. The film was set to be directed by Nicholas Ray. Ray had never seen Behind the Green Door or even screen-tested Chambers. Instead, the two met and Ray was impressed. "I have a camera in my head," he said, adding that Chambers would eventually be able to handle anything that a young Katie Hepburn or Betty Davis could. Well, the project never came to fruition, though, in large part to Ray's alcohol and drug abuse, and he would end up dying in 1979. Chambers claimed that Jack Nicholson and Art Garfunkel brought her in to talk about a role in the 78 film Going South. That is a movie that Jack Nicholson directed. Are you familiar with that, Julio?
No. I knew he had directed, he did The Two Jakes. That's the Chinatown sequel.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's it. I didn't know he directed anything else.
She claims they asked her for cocaine and grilled her about whether her orgasms in Behind the Green Door were real. Angered her to the point of
Classy.
storming out of the interview. She was going to be cast in the film Hardcore with George C. Scott, but the casting director took one look at her and said she was too wholesome to be cast as a porn actress.
That sounds made up.
So we come to Rabid. She won the starring role in film director David Cronenberg's low-budget Canadian film Rabid, which was released in 1977. Cronenberg stated he wanted to cast Sissy Spacek, as I mentioned in the lead, but the studio vetoed his choice because of her accent. The director says the idea of casting Chambers came from Ivan Reitman, who had heard that Chambers was looking for mainstream roles. Reitman felt it would be easy to market the film in different territories if the well-known porn star portrayed the main character. So that goes to kind of what you were mentioning in the first half, Julio. Cronenberg stated that Chambers put in a lot of hard work in the film and that he was impressed with her, further stating he had not seen Behind the Green Door prior to her casting.
But after, it was just his duty.
So she also did some theater work, and I mentioned the singing, the music. She had a Benihana, a disco hit that actually, it says here, it made charts. I don't know quite what that means, but it received favorable reviews from Billboard. And she did, obviously, some live shows, stripping, things like that. This would result in several highly publicized arrests where she was accused or charged with soliciting, prostitution, things like that, because I guess there were undercover police or just police in the venue that said, after a guy gave her a 20, she let him touch her, which, that type of shit.
Right.
Things get interesting. She left the adult industry. I guess this would have been in the 90s due to the increasing fear of AIDS, the AIDS epidemic that was spreading throughout. And in 1999, she returned to San Francisco, which is where she kind of cut her teeth in kind of every facet of stardom she tried to get into, to perform at the Mitchell Brothers O'Farrell Theater, in which Mayor Willie Brown proclaimed it Marilyn Chambers Day in San Francisco for her unique place in San Francisco history, praising her artistic presence, vision, and energy. Didn't stay away too long, though, from the adult industry, as she made her way back in the early 2000s. And near the end of her career, she appeared
Early
primarily...
2000s.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about, now she's like an older lady.
I believe a MILF is what they call them in the industry, Julio.
So to come up with like the most respectful term.
I'm pretty sure that's what they use. So the AIDS epidemic would have been probably mid to late 80s, and then she came back, it looks like late 90s into the early 2000s that she worked. She did have some roles in a few independent films towards the end of her career. In the end, though, through it all, in 2004, she said, "My advice to anyone who wants to get into the adult film industry is absolutely not. It's heartbreaking. It leaves you kind of empty, so have a day job and don't quit it." More interestingly, in 2004, Marilyn Chambers ran for vice president on the Personal Choice Party ticket, a libertarian political party. She received a total of 946 votes.
Man,
she was ahead of her time.
I make fun of libertarians all the time. So I wish she'd been running for either Democrats or even Republicans, just so that didn't have the libertarian stigma there.
In 2008, she was again Charles Jay's running mate, this time as an alternate write-in candidate to his primary national Boston Tea Party running mate, Thomas L. Knapp, in the state of Arkansas, Hawaii, Louisiana, Nevada, New Mexico, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, and Utah. So she tried. She tried. Sadly, though, on April 12th of 2009, Chambers was found dead in her home in Santa Clarita, California, at 56 years old. She was discovered by her teenage daughter. The L.A. County coroner's autopsy revealed she died of a cerebral hemorrhage caused by an aneurysm related to heart disease.
Oh.
Yeah, very sad. She was survived by her daughter, sister, and brother. Her ashes were scattered at sea. A very interesting life and an interesting body of work she left behind, just based on the research I did today and for the past week, and certainly has a memorable body of work, even outside of the porn industry, which is where the majority of her work was done or most success was had. And for this episode of the podcast, Julio, we're talking about Rabid after all. So my question will stay on Marilyn Chambers. How do you think she does in this movie?
Listen, you gotta come quick. You gotta come quick and get me. Rose.
Yeah, I was about to throw it to you and say, do you think that the lack of success as far as feature films go, like, does it have to do with her performance here, or does it have to do with the stigma of her career as a porn star? Which I guess it was iconic enough that it was inescapable, that she couldn't start anew, just as an actress after Rabid.
She, by the way, I'm going to close on this for all of the eligible candidates. She is in the AVN Hall of Fame, which is basically the highest honor you can get in that industry.
I guess they induct people every year.
I don't know, but
come on. I thought you'd done the research, Alex.
I don't know, what qualify as a first ballot Hall of Famer versus just, if you stay on the ballot for enough years, it'll come back to you. But I'm sorry, your question is her performance here is...
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess we have to talk about the performance, and you already breached that. I think she's fine. I think that for what the movie's trying to do, like, she could be Meryl Streep, and I don't think that it would have an effect on the movie, for the way that the movie's written, the way that the movie's constructed. So in that sense, like, the problems with the movie, like, if somebody told me, oh no, this movie doesn't work because of Marilyn Chambers' performance, I'd be like, come on. That doesn't, I think that there's times where she's better than others. There's some scenes where she seems more comfortable. There's some others where she seems to be straining, but I also can't blame her because so much of it is just very nonsensical, and some of it is just the genre, and sometimes she just has to scream. Sometimes she just has to run and freak out. And so, I mean, I don't know, Alex, you're more of a horror aficionado than I am, so you've seen these performances before. So is it completely out of the question that if she was not a porn star, if this was her Hollywood debut, so to speak, that this performance would have launched her into a solid career of being in horror movies, at least?
I mean, it could have. I think that's something we're going to talk about throughout this whole thing is, what do you think the stigma is? Obviously, you could jump into it a lot easier back in the mid-1970s. Like, as we sit here today, what do you think the stigma would still be if this movie came out tomorrow?
But that's it. That's the thing. I think that the stigma is less so now, if there even is a stigma. I think that now it's probably, I mean, I'm not an expert, and I'm not the generation that would be making those decisions anymore, or would be leading that charge. But I feel like now, because sex workers have, at least in big parts of the country, maybe even of the world, that they've sort of reclaimed their dignity in a way, and that they've changed the approach as to how their profession is defined and all that stuff. I think that now people would actually be more open-minded, not, old fogies, not the traditionalists, but the younger people. If they're still watching movies, they'll be more open to, like, to put it in these terms, a successful adult entertainer that has an OnlyFans channel, I think, could make a transition to being in a feature film and have an audience that would be more receptive, as opposed to, and I think, a porn star from the 70s trying to make the jump, and audience is just not taking her seriously because she's, they would just see her as a porn actress, whereas now society is slowly learning and training itself to, like, no, they're just another type of entertainer.
And we've also gotten to the point, at least people like you and myself, Julio, of if it's good, it's good.
Yes.
James Woods, big asshole, good actor. And also, look, we've also gotten to the point where I'm not going to accept from an industry that gave Roman Polanski an Oscar in the 21st century that it's too taboo what they do. We can't include them.
No, but there is a prudeness, especially in the United States, or in the United States and other places too. But it's just sex, explicit sex that's actually happening in front of the camera. I mean,
what is it, Julio?
Sex! It's still sex!
Thank you.
that is just, it's still a hang up for so many people. And so they would just find it distracting.
So it definitely would have been in the mid 70s. And not to say this movie was nowhere near the financial juggernaut of Halloween. But you can imagine like the outrage if it was. The idea of, this woman she's a fornicator on camera. She shouldn't be, famous. We can't be having this. And I mean, look, let's be honest. This movie's too weird to begin with to be like a huge financial or a sleeper hit, as the phrase goes. But I can also tell you, with the amount of horror movies that I have watched and the amount of horror movies I have watched from the 1970s, she is no worse, and in some cases, much better than a lot of the leading ladies of that genre of that decade. She ain't Jamie Lee Curtis.
Well, that was going to be my question. Because since you brought up Halloween, if you swap them, do their careers follow the same path? Like if you get Marilyn Chambers to star in Halloween, because Halloween is a better movie and it's more accessible and it's easier for audiences to grasp. Not to discount Jamie Lee Curtis's performance, but I'm just saying, does Halloween work if it has Marilyn Chambers at its center? And then does that launch her into a path similar to the one that Jamie Lee Curtis ended up having?
Marilyn Chambers and Freaky Friday.
Yep. True Lies.
Christmas with the Cranks.
Yep.
I don't know. It's tough to say. I think at that time period, if she had made, an adult film, one or two, that didn't make a splash or they weren't successes at all, she would have had a much better shot. But I think that whole idea of being in up until that point, and probably, I don't know if I could tell you any other fucking porn movie that made $50 million at the box office. So I think she was on the money with saying it kind of shot her in the foot, which doesn't make it right. But with this movie, just relative to what we're talking about, she is not, you said Meryl Streep earlier. Meryl Streep, she ain't. But she's also not egregiously bad at any point in this movie like several of the other actors in it are.
Yeah.
And yeah, who fucking knows, man? Because again, with the Jamie Lee Curtis thing, it's not like Jamie Lee Curtis is pulling out some all-time performance in that. It's just she kind of has this intangible and this kind of magnetic quality about her in that movie. So who knows? Who knows if Marilyn Chambers was given an actual fair shot, what level of success she could have reached? Because like Jamie Lee Curtis is a great example. Yeah, she's good in Halloween, but she obviously became like a much better actress, and
right.
With more opportunities, you grow with more, that's a big topic of discussion in wrestling right now with no house shows, is these guys aren't getting reps in, so their work grows stale. Yeah, you're never going to fucking evolve or improve as a performer if you don't get those necessary reps in and work with the right people. It's awesome. She started with David Cronenberg. She said she learned a lot. It's like, I bet you fucking did. But she's not, like, I can tell you this. I have watched movies that I'm like, there's no hope. Nothing. It's not salvageable. This is not one of those cases, for her at least.
But see, we're talking about the stigma. Here's the other hypothetical. Imagine Halloween is exactly the way it is, with Jamie Lee Curtis putting the exact same performance. But the difference is that the prior year, she was the star of Behind the Green Door.
Yeah. Who's to say?
Like, people would be just freaking out.
PJ Souls gets the career that Jamie Lee Curtis had.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like, because when I was watching this movie, I'm like, I don't know anybody here. The person that benefited the most from Rabid was Cronenberg. Like, people were like, all right, he made a weird... I haven't seen Shivers. Have you seen Shivers? Because that's his first movie.
No. I read somewhere that I think some theaters did like a double feature of this and Rabid or Shivers when it came out.
It sounds, just going by like the quotes I read, they're like, all right, so this is the next step. This makes sense. This guy made Shivers, now he's made Rabid. And so in a way, this was another step in fulfilling his promise. But, you watch something like, I don't know why, but I just thought Nightmare on Elm Street and all my issues I have with that movie. But it launched careers in a way that something like Rabid doesn't seem to have done. Johnny Depp and Heather Langenkamp.
Pretty sure Robert Englund's doing all right too.
Robert Englund and so on. So, I mean, I know that there's more to it. There's just like the intangible. Sometimes things become hits and sometimes they don't. But yeah, no matter which way you slice it, I think that it impacted negatively, like her career. Marilyn Chambers' her previous work as a porn star definitely has to have gotten in the way of her maybe capitalizing on the opportunity of being the lead on the second David Cronenberg movie the way that maybe she would have if she was just starting fresh. And that's a shame because it's such a volatile business to begin with. To start with a handicap that you might have seen as an asset too to begin with, because maybe she wouldn't have gotten the role to begin with if she wasn't part of the if she wasn't in Behind the Green Door. So kind of like, damn if you do, damn if you don't.
I also just love the anecdote of Ivan Reitman, like, the idea that he went to the theater 7 times to watch it. And... But let's be honest, she does look like a movie star. She has like that look, and I don't necessarily say the presence, but she certainly
Brittany Snow,
beautiful woman. Yeah, sure. Let's hear her sing. Oh, we did. Never mind. Fuck. Well, do you enjoy this movie, Julio?
No, but it's not. I mean, I don't enjoy this type of movie. It's funny because it felt more 80s and 70s for me, with the gratuitous nudity and it's kind of like slapdash in the way that it's put together. And I think that if this is your jam, if this is the kind of thing that you like, if you're into horror movies with like the gross kills and all that stuff, then you have a little more to chew on. But I was just kind of bored because the story it kind of goes in circles. You're just kind of waiting for the next person that she's going to infect. What I said in Concerns Corner is ultimately my main point. I think that there's 2 better movies, more interesting movies doing circles around the movie we actually got. And one of them would be a really funny porn parody where, yes, it's about an infection, but it's all with the architecture, the structure of a porn movie. And so you have these really stupid scenarios where like, oh, she is lost. It starts raining. She seeks refuge in a farm. And now the farm guy finds her and then they have sex, except that instead of having sex, she kills him because that's what the movie's about. And, then she finds a woman that's relaxing at a pool. And so they're going to have like a sexy scene, but instead she kills her because, she's infected and so on. And I'm like, that could have been funny. I mean, you would have had to find more to do with it. But in that sense, David Cronenberg making a really weird commentary about porn movies, that would have been fascinating. And then the other thing that they could have done way before their time would have been just Contagion. But that's really only the last 30, 20 minutes of the movie. And I was like, all right, I knew, I was like, there's not that much time left. So I don't know why they're going down this path because it's not like they're going to be able to develop it. Probably the best part is the ending, even with the really bad acting from Frank Moore. It's just the idea that she decides to try to prove that she's okay and ultimately ends up committing this sort of suicide. That's kind of heartbreaking. And with the epilogue of her just being thrown in the trash, I mean, that's poignant in a way that nothing else in the movie is, But I mean, in my experience, did you connect to it more than that?
The movie as a whole or the ending?
The movie as a whole. I know you like the ending because I'm assuming that you were being genuine when you were talking about it.
It's such a simple. I love that shit. That's why I love the ending of Contagion, where Matt Damon breaks down, because it doesn't simplify, but it shows it just starts at square one, man. But it's fine. The thing I was most impressed with was the score. Like, it felt like there was actual effort put into it, whereas like so much of this era of filmmaking is just like shit like that, or real like synthetic wing and shit like that. And so it was fine. It was interesting. Unfortunately, I think from the arm penis perspective, kind of that element grew tired pretty quick. But I really liked, unfortunately, when it started kind of getting interesting and ended, I really liked kind of the segregation now and the martial law aspect of it. And I understand the budget's really small, so there's no way they could shoot like massive set pieces that involve that. But I like the whole idea of which this was said to have been a commentary on Rabid has been noted by several journalists and critics for its political themes, particularly the breakdown of societal institutions, paralleling the October crisis of 1970, in which Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau controversially activated the War Measures Act in several Canada cities, including Montreal. Journalist Linda Gross of the Los Angeles Times noted in her 1977 review of the film Rabid that it contains ominous political overtones, effectively showing how martial law and political tyranny can become another kind of epidemic.
Fuck off. Like, I know it's true. I understand. And if you watch it with the right context,
there's a penis and an arm. Like,
yeah. You're taking a very weird path to get to that message. Because again, it's just like the last 20 or 30 minutes where it really becomes that. Before then, it's just a bunch of bullshit that you may or may not find entertaining, but it has nothing to do with that type of commentary that they were attributing to it. I'm not saying that Cronenberg didn't have that intention, but I'm just saying that the movie would be much better if it actually was about that the entire time.
That's kind of exactly what I'm saying. That's when I really got interested. Up until that point, it was just kind of like, oh, yeah, that. Oh no, she ran into another person. Wonder what's going to happen, So, so there's elements of it I enjoyed. It's certainly not a waste of an hour and a half. I think I don't know if I'd call it fun in the way I sometimes refer to horror movies as fun, but yeah, certainly not a waste of time. Interesting, colorful. I enjoy the score. Looks good. Fairly impressive for a $500,000 budget, even back in 1977. But, it's the same decade Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out, so the game done already changed. So, Julio, before we get to our ratings for this, if you ever have to get a skin graft, God forbid, you're going to think about it for a minute first. You're going to be like, well, hold on. I watched this movie called Rabid, Doc.
Yes. I mean, please explain it to me, but like I'm two. How does it work? What are the risks? I kind of understand the process. You're taking skin from somewhere else and then hoping that it adapts to the other place where you're putting it. But I don't know. And honestly, I would hope that technology has advanced since 77 or whenever this movie came out.
No, I just have to say that because I find myself in weird situations like this sometimes. If I ever do have to get a skin graft, I am going to ask the doctor, is there a chance that a phallic member could grow out of my armpit when this is all said and done?
And he's going to give you a knowing look.
Can you imagine how awesome that would be? You're like in a plastic surgeon, because like there's a fucking 100% chance you ask any plastic surgeon in the country that they're going to look at you like the fucking gas is already kicked in or something. But, can you just imagine you ask that to a fucking plastic surgeon, he just turns to you, he's like, my entire career, I've waited for the Rabid reference to come along.
No, what would the surgeon have to say to let you know that they got it without being explicit about it?
Oh, man. There's not like a really memorable line in this.
Right, that's the problem.
No, he would just go, is your name Rose? And you go, no. And he said, should be all right then.
And then while you're where he's putting you under, on the TV, he starts playing Behind the Green Door.
Oh, man. And then he gets fired for malpractice by the nurses that were offended by the pornography on television.
Do you want me to complete the stitching, Dr. Calloyd?
I need something to cut with, Dr. Rushton.
Oh, brother. A fun movie, and obviously an interesting place to start off. Another Cronenberg has been added to Contrarian's lore, and the Bedroom to Box Office series has been kicked off. Marilyn Chambers, An Interesting Life. Gone way too soon. Died at a very young age, sadly. But Julio,
I mean, this is a movie that probably shouldn't surprise you. Something like this to me is a dead center C. I found our discussion about it and the time we've spent talking about it way more interesting and kind of a more engaging use of time than watching the movie itself. But it's not bad. It's not boring. It's a quick and easy watch. Looks good. There's some people I could see finding this like really fun, like, and it does have a cult following. I don't mean to disparage it in any way. And it made $7 million off a $500,000 budget, so did fine for itself. For me, this is like a dead center C. If I'm feeling generous when I log it 3 stars. What about yourself?
I'm going to stick with my original score from back in 2017. This is still 2 stars. All the stuff, most of the stuff that I enjoy about it, it has nothing to do with the movie. It has to do with the stuff around the movie, like this conversation and the history that I've learned now about its protagonist. And just knowing, here's probably the most fascinating aspect of it, Alex, besides the Marilyn Chambers side of it, is just that I know that decades later, Cronenberg makes Crash, which I think is a more twisted, more interesting, and much harder to grasp, but more rewarding exploration of the sexual stuff that he kind of dabbles on in this movie. And so that is more compelling for me, just seeing this as this very, very a hint of what Cronenberg would eventually do once he became more confident behind the camera and more confident about, being fucked up. But of course, I like Crash a lot more than you do. So I would
Accurate.
say that. Yeah, but 2 stars, and it's not, I wouldn't discourage anybody from watching it. It is very much a movie that's not for me. So that's also has a lot to do with it.
All right, Julio. So we go from David Cronenberg to John Frankenheimer and a film based off an Elmore Leonard novel starring Roy Scheider and Anne Margaret. Roy Scheider can't stay away. He's returning pretty quickly.
Frankenheimer is also returning, right?
Yes, John Frankenheimer did
Reindeer Games?
Yeah, I was going to say, amongst other things, I think people would be really mad if we credited him as the guy who did Reindeer Games.
Well, that's the movie we covered.
It is, and that is a Christmas movie. That is in the rotation. But 52 Pickup, a movie I have no knowledge of at all. Never seen it. It's a neo-noir crime thriller. So this will be I assume you haven't seen this, Julio.
I am 99.9% sure that I haven't, but I haven't looked up my letterbox, so who knows?
Well, it'll be a fun ride for us either way. So that is what's coming up next in the From the Bedroom to Box Office series. Our summer adventure has been kicked off, Julio. I know there's going to be plenty from these episodes that end up on the cutting room floor that'll end up over on our Patreon. What else can prospective patrons expect to find over there?
Well, as you would expect, full commentary of Behind the Green Door should be dropped. Just kidding. I don't even know where we would find it. But if we did, Alex, I think we would organize a special screening for all our patrons. No, we have, as we record this, I'm looking at what's on the Contrarians Patreon, Contrarians Supplement. Most recently, I posted today a little bit of cutting room floor. Speaking of stuff that doesn't make it to the main episodes, I took about 9 minutes out of our Furfies episode with our friend Jason from Binge Movies and the Slashers, and I added some clips that didn't make it to the Pope's Exorcist episode and some clips from the Apartment episode. So overall, about 30 minutes of cutting room floor stuff that is pretty entertaining. So check that out. Also, the bonus episode about preparation for the next life dropped. A movie that, like I say on the episode, and I said when I posted it, I'll say it anytime it comes up. Please watch it. It's a movie that more people need to watch. Finally dropped the After Hours, where we talked to Ryan about Blade Runner 2049, where you and Ryan basically tried to bully me into liking that movie. And
as you should.
Did you succeed? I don't know. Listen to the conversation to find out. A couple more things. Also After Hours that we did for Catherine O'Hara to honor her passing. We talked about Marty Scorsese's After Hours. And then, of course, because we have videos as well, there's a dual QVR where we talk about Searching for Sugar Man, that documentary that won the Oscar a few years ago. So a lot of stuff and more. Just go to patreon.com/Contrarian Prime and check out our tiers. Join. That's it, Alex. Let's get out of here.
Thanks, y'all. Take care. Welcome to our end credits.
Or, as we usually call them, our perennial plugs.
We start off by giving thanks to the Festive Years who provide our opening and closing tracks. They kick us off with Last Stand and take us home with Summer of 99. Be sure to head over to thefestiveyears.com for any and all Festive Years needs.
Our friend and fellow podcaster Hans Rothgieser is the man behind our logo and all the art you see related to our show. Reach out to him and let him know how much you like that little tomato. His email address is mildemonios@hotmail.com and his website is mildemonios.pe. That's MILDEMONIOS. Hans, thank you for all your support.
For those interested in the regularly absurd world of professional wrestling, Joe and the boys over at latenightgrin.com have you covered. Tell them the Contrarians sent you.
And we like to close with special thanks to our social media team of Zoe Perez and Corey Ari. Each of the social media accounts we mentioned in the introduction look as good as they do because of their work.
So that'll do it for this episode of The Contrarians, where we're right and you're wrong, and we will catch you next time.
Just for old time's sake, I really don't care who you see and how much money